messing with some raw dudes, wrestling, talking, raw views, previews, recaps, and interviews. Definition of professional, tell me what you expected though. Facts are checked when information's collected, yo. We body slamming all these wrestling brands, but of course that's the case when A&T's on hand. We going head to head, this ain't a ratings war. Now's your chance to chat with Steven, what you waiting for?
Welcome everyone to a very special episode of Raw Views. My name is Steven. It is Thursday, March 4th, and we're here to talk AEW today. I did a breakdown of NXT and AEW last night, but more importantly, we were talking about today the Paul White statement, and as well, before I get into everything though, got to do all the necessities, subscribe, like, comment, share, tweet, all those cool things. Do those things, man. Help me stay on air so that you can have a positive and logical content creator in this space and not just dudes yelling at you about how awful everything was and the history of everything without giving you any substance whatsoever, without actually looking at what happened on the show, just yelling about outcomes. So let's get into it. Paul White last night makes a major announcement. I am going to go ahead. I have transcribed the whole thing myself. Hopefully I got it word for word. I believe I did. Paul White last night made a major announcement that this Sunday a major star would be signed to AEW. So I'm going to read what he said last night talking to Tony Schiavone. I will read what Tony Khan said in an interview after AEW Dynamite last night, and then we will speculate as much as we can speculate on the speculation, which is who will be this talent. So Paul White said, "Just so you know, I'm taking this color commentating gig seriously. You're not the only one to get the big scoops, buddy. I have the biggest scoop ever. This Sunday, AEW is going to put in contract a Hall of Fame worthy talent that is a huge surprise and a huge asset to AEW. But listen, it's not who you think. This Sunday, you're going to find out who it is, but I want you to know I knew first. Tune in this Sunday to find out who we get." That was Paul White's words last night, and during AEW Dynamite. Last night, also after AEW Dynamite, Tony Khan spoke. I'm sorry, this was actually on this week's episode of AEW Unrestricted. I believe it was released this morning. You can look on my Twitter page. I actually tweeted it out. Here's the entire quote from that. He told the world, and it's true, that there's going to be a big star signed with AEW. He's coming here, and it's absolutely true what Paul said. This Sunday, a major star in the world of wrestling, a huge star, is going to come and sign a multi-year contract with AEW on Sunday at the pay-per-view. So I can confirm what Paul said is true, and I'm not talking about the person in the ladder match. I'm talking about we have a fun sixth person in the ladder match, Khan said, but the person that I'm saying is going to come and sign a multi-year contract with AEW, the person that Paul referenced, that's not the sixth person in the ladder match. So, some change in verbiage between Tony Khan and Paul White over explaining who this person could be. So first off, let's break that down. So the differences between what Tony Khan said and what Paul White said last night. First off, Tony Khan did state a he. So whereas Paul White stayed gender neutral, we didn't know if it was a man or a woman, Tony Khan came out on Unrestricted and said, it is a he. So we know it's a male. We know that Tony Khan has stated it's a male. And also something else, it will not be a competitor, and it is not the same person as the secret person for the six-person ladder match for the TNT Face of the Revolution #1 contendership. So those two things we know are true that are different from what the two said. Another big change in the verbiage, I want to point this out, is that Tony Khan never said Hall of Fame worthy or Hall of Fame worthy talent. I feel a lot of people are leaving out that last part, as I transcribed and as I stated. Paul White says, and I quote, put in contract a Hall of Fame worthy talent that is a huge surprise. So someone who has Hall of Fame worthy talent. That could be somebody already in the Hall of Fame or not in the Hall of Fame. That's what I believe anyway. Um, but if you look at what Tony said, he never mentions Hall of Fame anywhere. He never mentions Hall of Fame worthy. He says big star, major star, huge star. That's the verbiage Tony Khan decided to use. He moved away from Hall of Fame completely and said big, huge, major, right? That is what Tony said, different from Paul White. So we're on the same page here. It seems like Tony may have on unrestricted wanted to push forward a slightly different vision of who this person could be um, compared to what Paul White said on Dynamite. So just something to take note of, right? So if we look at all the information we have here, we start coming up with names, right? Um, and I'm going to run down some of the names that I've seen most brought up on Twitter so far, and then kind of break down why I think um, it is or isn't possible, right? So let me just go ahead and throw these names out here and just let's throw them out. Let's all do it together. We're just gonna take and we're gonna ball up these names here, and we're just gonna throw these names out because it's not gonna be any of these people, right? It is not John Cena. It is not Brock Lesnar. It is not the Undertaker. Those three names specifically, and then I want to get into CM Punk, right? Because I saw I heard something that he said last night, and I think it's not who you think it is. And I would think immediately, anytime anybody in wrestling for the last few years has seen major surprise, major return, anything like that, um, immediately everybody jumps to CM Punk. And I feel like Paul White said that so that um, he could just go ahead and disarm everybody who is hoping for CM Punk so that you are not disappointed, which is a smart move. It's a very smart tactic by Paul White there to do that. Um, So I think you can also throw CM Punk out, right? So we have those names just tossed, right? That we're all in agreement here, right? I feel like we're all in agreement. I'm looking around. Give me a thumbs up if we're all in agreement. Okay, cool. We're all in agreement. So let's push forward, right? The next set of names: Christian, RVD, Kurt Angle, right? Because as I mentioned last night, I thought it could be Tessa. Well, obviously I am 0 for 3 in my prediction so far when it comes to Revolution. So why should I have even thought that? Um, so let's look at the next three names. RVD I'm going to mention first. RVD left Impact Wrestling, seemingly on good terms, and he took a gig with WWE to do a documentary. Now, he did state that it had nothing to do um, with getting back in the ring, but these are very recent talks. I'm unsure if he, I'm unsure if this has already been filmed, but Sportskeeda, Inside the Ropes, they did an interview. I think it was actually the Inside the Ropes podcast, did an interview, and they, speaking of WWE, contacted me and asked if I'd be interested, and that they wanted to make a documentary on me. And I said, sure, I'd be interested. We haven't actually shot much of it yet, but it comes out in May. So we're going to be shooting a lot of it real soon, so I'm excited about it. I'm talking to them about doing a book. We're in talks. I think you can remove RVD off this list, right? I think, this interview was as of late February, so they haven't shot a lot. It's coming out in May. I don't. If he wants to do a book with WWE, my guess is he's going to lock into a Legends deal of some kind. Maybe do a few one-offs. Possibly show up on NXT or something a few times to help them pop some ratings. I don't think and I apologize. This was on the 90s Wrestling Podcast, but was transcribed by Inside the Ropes. So let me give proper credit here. The 90s Wrestling Podcast spoke with Rob Van Dam. Inside the Ropes actually transcribed it, and I grabbed it off of Sportskeeda. So everybody gets some credit there. This is great. So anybody who thinks it's RVD, I think you can throw that out as well. Right? I don't foresee him being in this deal to do a documentary that's not shot all of it's not shot yet. The documentary drops in May, and he wants to do a book deal with WWE. I don't see where it's RVD. So I think we're all in agreement here. Looking around, thumbs up. Yep, we're gonna keep moving on. Christian. Christian's the next name I've seen a lot of, and now we know that Christian came back in fantastic shape. He came back in fantastic shape at the Royal Rumble, competed well, and we haven't seen him since. We haven't seen him back on TV. He hasn't been on a Raw. We haven't seen him since the Rumble. He's cleared. He was obviously in the match, but so I've done some digging, and it looks like that it's possible that Christian is under a part-time deal with the WWE. I've seen it on PW Insider. PW Insider had reported that there's a belief that he is um, under a part-time deal. And look, we just got to Roman Edge as a feud. KO will be needing a partner if they move on with that tag match. We assume it's Daniel Bryan, but it's possible it could be Christian and KO taking on the Usos at WrestleMania. Also, it's worth noting that Christian, if you do search for um, merchandise on WWE Shop, he does have a few shirts that pop up, but they all are with Edge. Also, Christian is currently on the WWE alumni section, so I don't think we can fully trash Christian as a name. I don't think he um, and he's also a Hall of Fame worthy talent. If you're taking it as somebody who is Hall of Fame worthy and not who their talent is Hall of Fame worthy, then Christian fits the bill, right? Christian absolutely fits the bill as somebody who isn't in the Hall of Fame, should be in a Hall of Fame, has the talent and the credentials of a Hall of Famer, but isn't quite there yet. So Christian has also left WWE before. He's in the best shape that he's been in some time. So if they're not going to use him, they didn't sign him, then it is possible that he shows up. He's the guy. So I think Christian is a possibility. Let's move on to another name. The name I think makes the most sense. The name I think, um, if you connect the most amount of dots, that this is the guy that it could be, right? Kurt Angle. Why Kurt Angle? Well, let's start with first off, he was let go by WWE last year. He was offered a couple of months later a on-air role as Riddle's manager, and he declined that. So he declined a new deal with WWE. He's gone on to now do a podcast with Conrad Thompson, who does many podcasts with many AEW signed backstage or performers. Arn Anderson. Um, he has one Bischoff who just showed up on AEW as well. Of course, he has one with Bruce Pritchard, so that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be him, but yet it's another dot, right? Conrad has done many things with AEW in the past, including being on the show last night. Um, so he went to go do a podcast with Conrad. He is being promoted as the guest of honor for the Chris Jericho Rock and Wrestle and Roll, whatever the name of the cruise is. He's promoted for that cruise later this year, and I don't think. I don't think that he went out the way he would have wanted to. His match with Baron Corbin, not the best of matches, not an awful match, but not the best of matches. Probably not the way he would have wanted to go out. And he actually pitched to Vince McMahon about being able to go for another run. Um, he said that he had another run in him and he could be ready for that. He said that just weeks ago on the podcast. So you put all these things together. He knows Paul White, so this would on air make sense. Paul White, Kurt Angle. You talk about another guy who's left WWE in the past when he has been unhappy with them, and not only that, but he's turned down the the prior WWE offer, right? So Christian, when you look at him, he's just been on WWE television. His best friend is back on television. You could get them in some capacity, maybe after the Roman feud, right? You could have Christian with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. Um, you you just kind of wonder if Christian's that guy. He is 47, so when we're talking about the list of names that it could be, he's actually the youngest one that we've discussed so far. So when you ask if it could be Christian, of course I think it is. But when you look at all the things, all the encompassing things, the fact that Angle's already turned down a WWE deal, he's working now with Conrad, he's doing his own thing, he thought he could have another run in him, he thought he could get ready for it. And maybe he looks at a guy like Cody and says, that's the guy I want my retirement match with, or Kenny Omega. There's so many guys that he hasn't worked on a high level with that he might prefer to have that final match with, or maybe even Sting. There's just so many names that when I look at it, and when I look at huge, big Hall of Fame, not who you think it is, and I look at all the things that has happened with Angle over the last year, if you ask me, dollar for donuts, I think it's Kurt Angle. But what do you think? Did I miss a name? Is there a name out there that we didn't touch on that I should have touched on? And I'm trying to think in my head before I go. Jeff Hardy's another name that I've seen floated up. He's still under contract. Cesaro's a name that I've seen floated up. He is under contract and in a major angle with Seth Rollins on the road to WrestleMania. It's not Cesaro. Again, I think it's Kurt Angle. And I think that I think there's some concern there about the roster if it is Angle. Not because I think Angle's a bad guy, but when you start to look at some of the names they brought in, it is a multi-year deal. So assuming that probably at least half of that, or at least a year of that, Kurt Angle is going to be featured on television in some fact or form. How is that going to? You're almost bringing guys directly up and putting them at the top, because Angle's not going to work underneath, right? He's not going to work the lower card. Paul White's not going to work the lower card. Sting's not going to work the lower card. Cody's not going to work the lower card. Omega's not going to work the lower card. Jericho's not going to work the lower card. Matt Hardy's not going to work the lower card. Um, who have I forgotten? Did I say Jericho? I might have already said Jericho. Moxley. Moxley's not going to work the lower card. So you already have a lot of guys who are starting to compress up at the top of the card, and you're wondering, because as you bring in these guys, what we haven't really had in AEW yet, or something that hasn't really been reported yet, is some backstage locker room issues with guys feeling that other guys are taking their spots. You wonder if 2021 is that year that this kind of stuff happens. If you are a Brian Cage, if you are a Hangman Page, if you are one of these top guys, it feels like Darby, Sammy, and MJF are pretty safe, right? They're young talent that AEW is fully invested in. But when you look at some of the other guys on the card that should be in a much higher spot on the card, that they have everything needed to be at that upper tier spot on the card, you wonder if when you bring all these other guys in, is it going to artificially push them down a bit? And will they be looking elsewhere when their contracts are up? That is something we will look at another time, though. I think right now, I believe once again, the answer is Kurt Angle. So that's about it. That's all I have today. Once again, Friday, tomorrow, I'll be breaking down the odds with Tom Cunningham of VegasInsiders.com. This weekend, I'll have some gaming stuff for you. I may have another AEW video for you, so be prepared for that. But I'll have some gaming stuff over the weekend. On Monday, me and All Elite Tiffany will be breaking down, the fan ambassador of AEW, I should say. I'll be breaking down Revolution on Monday. And then another very special guest on the show Tuesday, helping me break down Monday Night Raw at its Ella J. Ella with A Wrestling Gals, GAW TVs, GAW Cast. Everything will be breaking everything down from Monday Night Raw. It's going to be a blast. Stay tuned. And again, subscribe if you haven't yet. If you didn't subscribe at the beginning of the video and you're not already subscribed, and you're like, man, this guy, he's great, love his takes, love his energy, love the fact that he's not screaming at me, then go ahead, hit the little subscribe button, man. Share this on Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter at @view_raw. If you comment below, if you hit me up on Twitter, I will engage with you. I believe in open conversation. I believe in sharing points of view. And I believe that wrestling right now is actually awesome and not awful.